Hi, guys. Welcome to Module 11. I can't believe that we are on our last assignment. It's been fun to get to know all of you and get to know and learn new things about community relations. So, here's my take on the case study. So, here's a quick summary. There was a PTA, but they have been replaced by a new parent organization. They feel like they have a lack of involvement and want to be more involved with different decision and policy. So they would like to be equal partners and be able to have as much input as they can with those decisions. Then also the principal is new. This is new information for him, and the principal is worried about the responsibility and the accountability that he would have for these policies. So parents would make them, and then really ultimately they come back, the flack and the pushback come back to him. And then also, one key thing that I found interesting in the case study was that the parents seem to kind of be meeting behind the principal's back and trying to take over his leadership role, and they're kind of going behind and doing those sorts of things. So, legal or ethical issues. I really don't see anything legally wrong with this. Ethically, I can see from past experiences of learning new types of case studies that sometimes powerful parents with money try to influence by using that power of their money. And I can see that can kind of come into play, using that as a way to get what they want. Not necessarily something that was in the case study, but just something that could possibly be an outcome. What is exactly happening? A new parent organization wants to be more involved in school policy and decision making, but the principal wants their role to be more involved via school functions. So in the past, PTA has been involved with making decisions such as parent picnics. I'm trying to think of the other ones that they were involved in. They were involved in parent-teacher conferences and things of that nature, not so much in the policy making or decision making in the school and curriculum. So people, there is a newly formed parent organization. The principal is a main character. The president plays a big role in getting all these people in order, and then the parents. This is a school setting. The program, I would assume, is a public school. They want to make policy change and they have new ideas. This could potentially be damaging to the principal. I would say that the principal needs backup from assistants or board. I think this ultimately comes down to board policy, and if parents really want more involvement with the types of decision making, then I think that ultimately needs to go to the board for their approval. I think the school board needs to be more involved. Stakeholders have not been consulted, so the principal's the only one, teachers, other admin, people that are in the schools. And then the idea is a new organization surprised the principal. It's kind of a surprise attack. He knew really nothing about them other than they just wanted to be more involved. So he kind of got surprised. There are many options, and I chose 3 different ones that I kind of could come up with that I thought would potentially happen. So option 1 would be to do nothing, allow the parents to make changes and include them in policy decisions. So give them what they want. Option 2, work with new parent organization to come up with new ideas. Accept input on policies and changes, but inform them that you have final say in what happens. Option 3, tell parents that they should assume the same role as they did in PTA and inform them that policy input and change is not an option. So where do we go from here? What are the pros and cons? This is essential in making a decision, and it's something that I use not only in my professional life, but also in my personal life. So option one was to do nothing and really give the parents what they want. So pros would be less headache. Probably they would come up with policy change and be in charge of those types of ideas. The parents are probably happy because they're involved and new ideas are forming. Cons, I don't think this is in the best interest of the students to allow parents to make decisions. They're not educators. They have not, well, some of them could be, but they do not have that administrative role. The principal loses his power. He kind of lays back and decides, you guys go ahead and run with this. Parents are possibly too involved. The parents do not feel the repercussions of their changes to the policy. It's the principal, so that's a con for him. And then I think this could potentially result in a bad relationship between parents and the school. Option two, this would be working with with a new organization and coming up with new ideas, but really being firm in the fact that you are going to listen and take into what they are saying, but you ultimately have that final say on policy. Pros, principal has the best interest of the students. He is taking into consideration all new aspects. Parents are involved, so they are still getting to give input. There are new ideas and change. I think everybody wins in this situation. And then it results in a good relationship between parents and school via the communication and the openness to their ideas. Cons would be parents might feel that they do not have enough say. They're not happy that they don't actually get to decide what is happening. And then the principal must deal with parents more often than not. So with the PTA, he still had to deal with them. I personally, I want to build relationships with those parents, but dealing with them can sometimes be a challenge because they have great ideas, or they have an idea that you're not quite on board with, and they just might push and push and push. So that might result in a bad relationship between parents and school. But I think that ultimately comes down to the principal and how he handles those situations and how gracefully and respectfully it is handled. So dealing with the parents could be a pro or con in different situations. Option three, tell parents that they should assume the same role as they did in the PTA and inform them that policy input and change is not an option. So principal still has the final say. Things ultimately stay the same. And it has been effective in the past. And the principal in the case study did feel like he gave good parent involvement. The cons, no input from the parents. The school and parent communication relationship is not good. And then I also think that's a bad growth mindset of the principal if he were to choose this option. I think you need to be open to change, and listening to other people's ideas is a great way to have the best interest of students in mind. And sometimes, almost all the time, people think differently than you do, and you might have not thought about that at first, but they bring that idea to you and you think, that's a really good idea. I'm going to take that, kind of mold it into what I think is best for students, and then make my decision. What's the best option? I think option two, working with parents and building those connections with stakeholders is really important. And I also think that having a growth mindset and accepting the ideas that they have and changing them into what you think could be best for the students is super important. And I think parents are going to have a good say in what is happening. And it's good to get input from teachers, parents, admin, board members. Getting those inputs from different ideas and perspectives comes with the best results. What's the plan? I would want to start by incorporating more administrators. So the assistant principal, the school I came from at Emporia, we had 4 assistant principals. So that would be a good way to incorporate them and get their ideas. Board members and then teachers would be added to get their input also. I think it'd be good to sit down and make set guidelines for parent involvement and kind of how it would work in relation to the communication piece. Set meeting times and place every other month. I think you need to meet at least every other month to evaluate the changes and what's upcoming. You could make it more often or less often depending on your evaluation of how it's working. Listen to the ideas and work with members of the group. And teamwork is really important in trying to implement new ideas and new say and what's best for the interest of the students. There are some things that could happen positively and negatively in this situation. Parents could still not be happy and push back and want more say in the policy. There could be some confrontation among the stakeholders, such as parents coming to administration or teachers and complaining about what needs to be done. Parents could overall be happy with input and change if the principal has that growth mindset and the principal is receptive to new ideas. I think it will be positive in the end. There are quite a few stakeholders that need to be involved. I think coming together as a group is going to be positive in the outcome. So administrators, teachers, board members, parents, and community groups, getting the input from all those areas are going to make the best decisions. Plan B, parents are still unhappy, feel like they need to be included with the policy change. Ultimately, I think that's a board decision. So I would give them the advice that they need to go to the board and have that policy put into place, that they are incorporated in those changes. You could also say that it could just go back to the PTA involvement like it was before, where they were more involved with functions rather than the new ideas of the school, and offer to implement their new ideas for 1 year and evaluate them and see what needs to be changed. I think that's a little risky to just go ahead and say that, but within reason, you could implement their new ideas how they would like if it was in the best interest of the students. Overall, we as teachers and future admin are looking to give these children and students what they need to be successful. And if you keep that in mind as an educator or an administrator, I think you're going to be successful. And you really have to portray that you are here for the students, you're here for the teachers, you're here for the parents, and keep that open communication and two-way communication so that there can be a positive outcome in